Iblis is a legendary genie who's been waiting centuries to finally flex his wish-granting powers. However, everything changes when his new master turns out to be a hot psychopath girl who has zero interest in making any wishes. Now, as he chases after her to get back his freedom, they end up falling in love with each other. The story begins when Kyung goes on a vacation trip to the desert to ease the stress from dealing with her mother, who left her with her grandma when she was younger because she believed Kyung was showing psychopath tendency. While walking in the desert, she accidentally falls and discovers it is because she stepped on a lamp. She angrily smashes the lamp against the ground, imagining her mother's face as she does so. After feeling satisfied with her little activity, she flings the lamp away and continues her walk, only to trip on the lamp again, so she picks it up again and shakes it to see what is inside. Suddenly, Iblis, a 6-foot genie, appears in front of her, and she points her hairpin at him with the hope of stabbing him if he tries anything funny. She asks who he is, but he just sniffs her and realizes she is someone he knows from centuries back. He tries to introduce himself, but when she shakes the lamp, he grows dizzy and can't speak, so she leaves him and goes about her day. Later in the night, it is to her utmost shock when she returns to her shortlet and finds him already waiting for her. Impressed by the length of his hair, she asks who he truly is. He tells her he is a lamp spirit who has known her for centuries, but she does not believe him and goes upstairs. However, Iblis refuses to leave and continues his tale of how he has been trapped in his lamp for centuries, and Said, his assistant, has been the one updating him on the happenings on Earth. He talks about how Kyung has been the only pure soul he has come across, but an uninterested Kyung pretends to fall asleep, hoping that he leaves her alone. The next morning, he continues to bother her while she has breakfast, and she is forced to ask what he wants from her. He explains that he wants to grant 3 of her wishes, but the exceptions are bringing back the dead and traveling to the future. She still does not believe him and threatens him with a knife to leave her alone. Shortly after, she visits a store to get a souvenir for her friend Minji, but while trying to shop, he appears in front of her and continues to pester her to use her wishes. She soon realizes that she is the only one who can see him and lashes out at him for making her look stupid in front of her fellow tourists. Afterwards, she tries various means to get rid of him, but he keeps returning to her, and soon after, she finds out that he can fly as he takes her to the top of a building. Impressed by his skills, she finally believes he is a genie and tries to test him, so he pushes him from the building, only for him to return shortly after. Annoyed by her stunt, he holds her by the neck, and memories of her from centuries back begin to flood his memory. He realizes she is different now and wonders why she is like that. Still holding her neck, he asks her to beg for her life as her first wish, and she later finds out that he is going to eliminate her after her 3 wishes have been granted. But instead of getting scared, she tells him to scrap the wishes part and just throw her off the building because she is having a blast and laughs hysterically while he stares at her in complete shock. Surprised by Kyung's statement, Iblis decides to test her further by throwing her down to see if she will be scared, but she just laughs as she goes down. So he brings her up, sniffs her to confirm she is the lady he knows, and after confirming, releases her from his hold. He then threatens to take her family down if she ever touches him again before disappearing, leaving her alone to find her way back. The next day, she returns home, and Pangiam, her grandma, and Pangiam's friends are surprised to see that she returned with a handsome cookie. This is when she realizes that Iblis actually followed her home and warns him not to say a single word before introducing him to them as a souvenir from her trip. After the introductions, she takes him to a room and lays down some rules for him to follow. She tells him to stay out of sight of the grannies, locals, and the town as a whole. He must also not tell her to make a wish. He begins to protest, and she grabs a pickaxe to hit him with, just as Pangiam enters and asks why she is holding a pickaxe. She then realizes she is the only one who can see him because she told him to stay away from the grannies. Pangiam tells her to calm down, so she drops the pickaxe and holds her wristwatch to her ear to count the seconds on it. A technique Pangiam taught her when she was younger to calm her nerves whenever she is angry. The next day, Kyung visits Minji, who happens to be a dentist at her clinic, to enjoy the sound of the dental scaling, only for Minji to accuse her of not telling him about the man she returned with. She tells Minji about how he always asks her to make a wish and begs for money, leaving Minji confused. Meanwhile, Iblis meets up with Sade to tell him about Kyung, and he finds out from him that the villagers think Kyung is a psychopath, so he decides to take matters into his hands to see if she values other people's lives. To test her humanity, Iblis locks Kyung inside her workshop and sets the place on fire, expecting her to finally beg for a wish. Thankfully, a passerby sees the fire and alerts others while he continues to threaten her, but she just sighs and goes out through the back door, catching him completely unaware, and beats the hell out of him with a rod. Shortly after, the fire authorities arrive, but the fire has been put out, and they see Kyung beating Iblis, so they step in to stop her. Iblis assures them everything is under control, and Kyung tells him to put everything in the workshop in order before turning to leave, but Iblis tries to protest, so she knocks him out with a punch. On their way home later in the night, Kyung gives him a hair clip to wear as a way of knowing if she is the only one who can see him when people are around, but he tells her to let him grant her a wish. He believes humans are corrupt, judging from the people he has granted wishes to in the past, so to prove him wrong, Kyung challenges him to grant the wishes of the next 5 people they meet on the road, and if 3 of the 5 can be corrupted, she will immediately make all her wishes and die by his hands. This statement catches him by surprise, and he asks if she isn't scared. She replies that she isn't, points the hairpin at him, and confirms that she has just made her first wish. Iblis finds it hard to believe that Kyung is betting her life to prove the goodness of humanity, but he collects the hairpin and accepts the deal. They continue their journey home with the hope of meeting people, and the first person they encounter is Imseon, a worn-out supermarket employee. The second person they meet is Bogyung, a bank employee who used to be Kyung's classmate in high school. The third is a dog named Poppy that Kagyung protests against at first, but later agrees on. The fourth is Sangtae, one of the granny's sons, and the fifth is Youngyeon, an unpopular streamer who moved to Kyung's village with his family a year ago. The next evening, when Iblis visits Kyung's workshop, she confronts him for not fulfilling her wishes yet, so he informs her that he has been making arrangements for the people to see the lamp when their desire peaks. She worries that she will not know if any of them wishes to change their wishes later on, so for transparency, they visit Suhyun, Iblis's brother, who happens to be a grim reaper in the spiritual realm and an estate developer in real life, the next morning at the rooftop of his building. When Suhyun comes out to meet them, Iblis tells Kyung to pluck one of his feathers when he is distracted and run away with it before throwing her off the building. Immediately, Suhyun jumps to save her and drops her safely to the ground, showing his wings in the process. So she distracts him with some questions and plucks one of his feathers before running away. As she leaves, Iblis joins him, and they banter with each other because they are not exactly friendly with each other. A few hours later, Imseon finds the lamp while clearing the storage room at the supermarket and rubs it, and Iblis comes out in the form of a bright sand whirl and tells her he can grant 3 of her wishes. Iblis returns home, all smiles to let Kyung know Imseon has made her first wish, so she can document it with the feather, and it turns out her first wish is to become the supermarket's branch manager. Kanyung then visits her at the supermarket only to find out that Imseon is now proud because of her new role, and to make matters worse, Iblis reminds her of how humans can be when they get what they want, but she ignores him and walks away. As this is going on, Irem, Suhyun's assistant, informs Suhyun of what Iblis and Kyung are up to regarding the wishes. Apparently, they need the wishes to go Kyung's way because if Iblis does not end up proving humans' corruption, Suhyun will get to slit Iblis's throat according to the divine deal. The next day, Iblis and Kyung go to a restaurant, and as they eat, he notices her staring at a tower, so he takes her to the top of the tower after their meal. Even though she is devoid of human emotions, she finds owning a lamp interesting and tells him that she likes him, leaving him shocked for a second before regaining himself and asking her why she does. She replies that she does not need to read his emotions to understand him, making him smile a little, so in return, he gifts her the greatest darkness by turning off the lights in the area so that she can get a better view of the stars and the sky. On seeing this, she stares at him weirdly and asks a confused Iblis to do it because, according to Minji, if a guy shows a lady the stars, he wants to kiss her. She tells him to go for it since she has always wondered what it feels like, but he refuses, so she takes matters into her hands and kisses him instead, but she does not get it right and wonders why people like doing it. Impressed by her boldness, he tells her it is different when he does it and kisses her softly as the lights in the area turn on. Throughout the following day, Iblis avoids Kyung because she keeps asking for more kiss, and when she finally gets a hold of him in the night while he was hiding in the coffin in her workshop, he lies to her that the only time they can kiss next is when it rains, and they've had a cup of alcohol. Sade finds out the day after from Iblis inside his lamp that he kissed Kyung and shames him for not going for a dental scaling first. since he has not kissed for centuries. So the next day, he visits Minji's clinic for a dental scaling. After the procedure, Minji discovers that he has no money or means of identification, but soon finds out that he is the one Kaiyong brought home. She then takes her to Kaiyong's workshop to report him. While still reporting to him, an assistant of Minji reminds her about the Spring Festival volunteering event. So she excuses herself after telling her to be careful of him, and as she leaves, he promises Kaiyong that he will pay when he becomes a pro gamer. But Kaiyong knows he sucks at the game and prepares to beat him instead. Later in the night, when the Spring Festival ceremony is in full effect, fireworks go off, and the villagers see an inscription of someone expressing their feelings for Kaiyong. This person is no other person than Iblis, and he achieves it with Sade's help, who claims ladies love stuff like that. But unfortunately for them, Kaiyong is at her workshop, and when she sees the inscription, she just cusses at him, only to be interrupted by Suhyun. Kaiyong thinks he is there for his feather, but he explains his mission to eliminate Iblis, hoping she wins her challenge with Iblis. Kaiyong is taken aback for a second but quickly regains herself, tells him to get lost, and lets him know that she is on Iblis's side, catching him by surprise. Moments after, Minju shares a dinner with Iblis, and she explains how the whole village raised Kaiyong to be a good person despite her psychopathic tendencies. As they discuss, Kaiyong, who is returning home from work, sees them from afar and then enters to take Minji home because she is drunk. Meanwhile, Imseon, who is still riding on her newfound power, orders the staff at the supermarket around, but they turn against her because of how she treats them, and this makes her sad. So she returns to the storage room to complain to Iblis. She believes she is being treated that way because she is old, so for her second wish, she requests to be the branch manager 20 years ago, and Iblis happily grants it. After the wish, Iblis runs into Poppy on his way home and orders Sade to get his wish. He finds out that it wants to become a charming middle-aged man, so he grants it, and all the women in the area begin to swoon over him, but they soon lose interest after they see him act like a dog. The next morning, as she works, Panjiam calls Kaiyong to ask about the notebook where she writes wishes that she found while cleaning her room, and she is shocked to discover that Panjiam can read it, so when Iblis arrives, he immediately lets him know. She suggests they keep the notebook in his lamp for safety, and he takes her inside to check it out. After entering, she orders him to bring in furniture to make the place more presentable, and after they are done with the arrangement, she sits down to discuss why Imseon chose to stay in the supermarket, and Iblis blames it on the cowardly nature of humans. This statement pisses her off, so she picks up a spanner to deal with him, but he escapes by playing hide and seek with her. After their little game, they return outside and find Panjiam crying because one of her friends has just died. She finds out that Panjiam is crying because she is sad. After her friend's burial, she makes her second wish by telling Iblis to make Panjiam young again because she believes Panjiam wants to live a long and healthy life. Kaiyong returns home that night to tell Panjiam that they will be going on a vacation in 3 days and advises her to brag to all her friends and villagers about it. She follows her advice and brags about it to all her friends during the yoga session the next day. Later in the afternoon, Imseon visits her daughter's dormitory and finds everything disorganized, so she calls her to find out her whereabouts, only for her daughter to lie that she is in the dormitory. To make matters worse, she finds out that her daughter has dropped out of school, causing her to break down in tears. She soliloquizes on how close she used to be to her daughter when she was just an employee, and Iblis appears in front of her to let her know she can still have her former life back since she has one wish left, but she refuses, leaving him pleased. The next morning, Kaiyong goes to the living room and finds a younger version of Panjiam, completely impressed by her beauty. Panjiam, on the other hand, is very shocked by her sudden transformation and runs to Kaiyong's closet to try on some of her clothes. Shortly after, Poppy meets with Iblis for his second wish. He requests money and a means of identification, and he immediately understands because he can relate to how hard it is to live as a human, so he grants his wish and turns him into a boss with a bodyguard. A few days later, Sangtae is on his way back from work and crashes into a deer. He comes out of his car to check if it's alive, after which he returns to his car to get a rod to finish it off. He sees a lamp and sets it aside before going for the rod, and as he returns to finish it off, Iblis suddenly appears in front of him and introduces himself. Doubting his authenticity, he dares him to bring the deer back to life, and he does, leaving him disappointed that he just wasted his first wish. He tries to attack Iblis, but Iblis escapes his wrath and tells him to be careful with his next wishes before disappearing, leaving him furious. In the meantime, Kyung meets with Minji at their favorite restaurant, and as they are discussing, two of Panjiam's friends approach them to ask why Kyung is still in town since she is supposed to be on vacation with Panjiam, and she immediately lies on the spot by telling them that she could not go because of a situation, and Panjiam left alone. So the next morning, when Minju runs into a young Panjiam in front of a salon, she does not recognize her, and Panjiam also lies about her identity, following the rules Kyung laid down for her. Meanwhile, at the bank, Bagyeong's boss asks her to get Kyung to sign up for the bank's new pension package. But Bagyeong is not a fan of Kyung and even secretly envies her, so when she tells her boss she will think about it, she does not really mean it. After her boss takes his leave, she proceeds to wash the cup of coffee he left behind, only to stumble on the lamp. She wonders who may have dropped it there, and as she scrubs it angrily, Iblis comes out in the form of a bright sand whirl and introduces himself. To Iblis's surprise, she bursts into laughter like she is possessed, and wishes for all the money in Kyung's bank account. Iblis returns to his lamp to tell Kyung so she can write it down and mocks her for believing in humans. Even though she is angry that Bagyeong singled her out, she shrugs it off and goes to hug Iblis, catching him completely off guard because he once asked to be taken care of. As she pets him, the writings on the walls and floor of the room appears, but she has other concerns, and asks why the sand in the hourglass present in the room never flows. She soon finds out it's a coffin designed for her and immediately pushes him off, piquing her interest. She moves closer to the hourglass to admire it and touches it, with only a finger from the hourglass to touch her fingertip in return. Soon after, she sees her wristwatch spinning backwards, and memories of her past life begin to come to her. Shocked by this revelation, she finds the memory oddly familiar and tells Iblis, who just mocks her, and she goes to look for her toolbox, causing him to run away because it can only mean one thing. The next day, she attends to a customer, a man and his son, Jung-hun. The man excuses himself to go to the bank, and Jung-hun, holding an ancient book, limps closer to her to start a conversation, but she is uninterested. As she leaves to attend an urgent work, Said, who works part-time at her workshop, comes closer, and Jung-hun notices his shadow is that of a jaguar. As she rests at home from work later in the evening, memories of her past that she discovered while with Iblis return to her, so she tries to disguise herself as she saw in the memory for more clues. As she does this, she sees Soo-hyun through her mirror and goes out to confront him for showing up at her house unannounced. However, Soo-hyun has other plans and offers to take her to the past to show her how she died. Kyung asks why Soo-hyun wants to do that, and he explains that even though Iblis is his brother, they've been enemies for a long time, and since she is trying to kill her, the enemy of an enemy is surely his friend. On hearing this, she picks up the shovel closest to her and tells him to piss off before proceeding to hit him with it. The next morning, cops visit her workshop to see if she recognizes a picture, and as Sade proceeds to sniff it, she drags him back and tells them they haven't before proceeding to take a picture of the victim. After the cops leave, she tries to trace a picture to the remains of the broken taillight of a truck that was brought to her workshop recently, before dropping it and going about her day. Meanwhile, Imseon returns to talk to Iblis about her third wish, and Iblis tells her about the case of a man who wished for him to forget the 2 wishes he already made. This statement piques her interest, and she starts to think about it. Meanwhile, Bo-gyung also finds out that Kyung has a daily transfer limit on her account, so when she gets to work the next day, she asks Iblis to increase her limit to the maximum as her second wish, and he grants it. A few days later, Kyung takes her wristwatch to a repairer because it spun backward, but the repairer lets her know they have not received a request like that before. So she returns home and checks out the lamp only to see a description on its bottom, and realizes that Iblis is 20 years wrong with his calculation on the number of years he stayed locked in the lamp. Meanwhile, Bagyeong resumes work with an expensive handbag, only for her coworker to escort her to her boss's office. On getting there, his boss asks why Kyung's money is being transferred to her account daily, but she does not come up with a convincing explanation. On the other hand, Kyung visits Soo-hyun for answers because she is curious about her past life. Instead of explaining it, he decides to show her directly, transporting her centuries into the past. She then discovers that she was a slave being transported across the desert with other captives, and on their way, a pack of hounds suddenly attacks the group. To save themselves, the slave traders cruelly throw Kayong's limping friend Hunbish toward the hounds, ignoring her desperate pleas to spare him. In the chaos, she accidentally stumbles on Iblis, who emerges from his lamp, and the slave traders abandon her in fear. Iblis introduces himself, and she immediately wishes for him to save Hunbish and let him live a long life. So he grants it by eliminating the hounds and slave traders because a blood sacrifice has to be made for Hunbish to live a long life. And for her second wish, she requests that other children from her country should not be sold into the slave trade, so he grants it. But unknown to her, her second wish led to the loss of lives, so when Soo-hyun delivers the message to him, she is very heartbroken and believing that she made the wrong wishes. She requests that both her and Iblis be punished as her last wish, before dying. Soo-hyun's reason for taking Kayong to the past is to show that Iblis is an evil genie that likes to twist people's wishes, but all Kayong sees is Iblis truly mourning, and as this is going on, Iblis is in his lamp, feeling excruciating pain in his heart. Sage visits Iblis in his lamp to check on him. He calls Iblis' attention to the fact that the hourglass in the room has started to flow, leaving Iblis extremely surprised as he wonders that the hourglass is probably showing the time he has left, which means he has to quickly make Kayong's last wish go in his favor. So the next morning, he visits Kayong at her workshop with the hope of convincing her, but Kayong has other plans and tells him to have his seat. She asks him if he mourned her death in the past because of what she saw, but he replies that he does not. Since he claims it isn't because of her, she asks if he had any genie girlfriend in the past that he was mourning, but this question just makes him uncomfortable, so he disappears. Later in the evening, Young-hyun sits at the bar, drunk and thinking of what he can do to make his posts viral, only to see a lamp pop up on his phone. He soon finds out it is a genie that would like to grant 3 of his wishes. Even though he thinks it is a prank, he plays along and wishes for something he can film in the village that will make his account go viral. After his wish, he finds himself in a strange place doing a live stream. Still trying to understand what is going on, he sees a corpse and quickly cuts the stream in fear. Immediately enters Dajin, his wife calls and tells him to continue streaming because they have a lot of live viewers, so he logs in and is shocked to see the number of people reacting. His post soon goes viral, and the people in the village begin to talk about the corpse. In the meantime, Panjiam shops in the supermarket, only to see one of the grannies and Changsik shopping also. She quickly hides from them and finds out they are talking about how she abandoned Kayong because of her condition, and they even wonder if Kayong is behind the death of the corpse. Even though Changsik called the granny to order, Panjiam is heartbroken that the villagers think of Kayong that way. She returns home crying, and Kayong finds her. She tells Kayong not to let the villagers get to her, and Kayong assures her that she is fine before going to the farm to get what they are going to prepare for dinner. While farming, Bogyeong approaches her and requests that she follow her to the bank to clear up her misconceptions, but she refuses. A furious Bogyeong then plays the psychopath card on her, but Kayong is unbothered by the allegation and just tells her that she hopes she gets investigated for embezzlement, making her scared. While cooking later that night, Kayong admits to Iblis that humans are indeed corrupt, but Iblis just asks genuinely if she is alright, especially since most of the villagers suspect her. She assures him that she is used to it, so he takes her to the top of the highest building in the community to show her the stars with the hope of cheering her up. Later that night, Minji goes to check on Kayong at her house, only to meet Panjiam outside. Unaware of Panjiam's relationship with Kayong, Minji asks why she is at Kayong's home, and when Panjiam replies that she is a close friend of Kayong, she senses foul play because she is the friend Kayong has. Just in time, Kayong and Iblis return from their sightseeing, and Minji asks Kayong about Iblis and Panjiam. To clear the air, Kayong takes Minji to another area of the house to inform her that she will explain everything to her later. Minji sighs deeply and agrees because she believes Kayong must have her reasons. In another part of town, Sangtae returns home from work, and as he prepares to sleep on his bed, he sees the lamp from earlier and rubs it. Iblis appears, and he immediately wishes to be transported to 20 years ago, giving him the exact date and time he wants, and grabs a knife as he waits for Iblis to grant his wish. Iblis grants his wish, and Sangtae confirms that it was his mother who saw him on the day he murdered someone. Apparently, the infamous corpse in the village is his handiwork. So, returning to the past to confirm who saw him, assures him that he will never be reported. Soon after, Iblis returns home to give Kayong the report, and as she confirms he is the one behind the murder, she tells Iblis that they will report him to the authorities after his last wish. Even though Iblis is winning, he is sad because he is beginning to develop a soft spot for Kayoung. The next morning, Sade alerts Kayoung, Soohyun, and Irem to follow him to Iblis's lamp, and they all find Iblis tied with a mysterious thread that refuses to cut. On seeing this, Irem confesses that he saw Shadi, one of Iblis's brothers, the night before, and Iblis finds it strange that Shadi would do something like that. As the rest are discussing, Kayoung cuts one of Iblis's wrists to free him, and she holds the thread freely, shocking the rest as she does so. Seeing that there is no need for their help, Soohyun and Irem take their leave as Kayoung tells Iblis about how Soohyun took her to see her past life and asks why he left her in the desert. This sentence makes him comfortable, and he runs out of the lamp with Sade following shortly after, leaving Kayoung alone inside the lamp. Shortly after, Iblis appears in Soohyun's office to ask about Shadi, and he finds out that Shadi's current master is Hunbish. Apparently, the kid he saved centuries back has become immortal, but before he can get more information on where Hunbish is currently staying, Soohyun escapes because he does not want to tell him. So he takes matters into his hands and takes Sade back to the desert to get Hunbish's scent so that they can use it to track him. In the meantime, Jung-hun finds out about Shadi's previous night escapade, and he realizes that Shadi went to meet Iblis with the hope that he would be able to release him from his hold. He tells Shadi he is glad he went because he just led him to Iblis, making his plan of stealing Iblis's lamp and becoming the leader of all spirits easier. Meanwhile, Iblis returns to his lamp and sees that Kayoung is still there. She asks him about Khalid because when she was left alone, she touched the hourglass and saw a vision of a boy named Khalid weaving a rug beside, but Iblis has no idea who she is talking about. When they return to the living room shortly after, they see Saad and Penguin eating, and Kayoung decides to test the mysterious thread. She finds out that the thread isn't heavy for humans, but heavy for spirits. She also finds out that if a spirit ties the thread to another spirit, it will be very impossible to break. Later that night, Kayoung visits Sangtae to return the remains of the taillight of his truck from when he brought his truck to her workshop for repair, and confronts him about the remains of his truck taillight containing the blonde hair of the missing lady from earlier. She then hands the stuff to him, telling him that they should work together in the future since they seem alike, and hearing this word excites him. When she returns home, Iblis asks why she gave the evidence to him instead of the cops, and she replies that he would have used his last wish to escape, so they come up with a plan to get him. While still discussing, Sade comes in to tell Iblis he has found the scent of Hunbish. They head out together to check it out, only to find out it's an unexpected place. The next day, Iblis tells Kayoung to accompany him on a vacation to the desert because he wants to make some inquiries on Hunbish and Shadi, so when they get there, Iblis takes Kayoung to visit his ex Jinia, but she storms off in annoyance. Iblis, on the other hand, follows Jinia into her lamp and asks about Shadi. He finds out that Shadi has a son with a human, thereby making the kid half human and half spirit, but he is long dead. He also finds out that 20 years of his memory is sealed, and before he can ask her more questions, she disappears, leaving him puzzled. Shortly after, Imseon summons him from his vacation for her last wish, and she wishes for him to forget that she had already made 2 wishes. But unknown to her, this only means she will have to return to her previous way of life before she encountered him, and the memories she has of him will cease to exist. After granting the wish, he meets with Soohyun to ask about his 20-year memory gap, only to find out that Soohyun also knows about it. He also realizes more information about Hunbish and becomes confused as Soohyun tells him that Hunbish is Shadi's son because, according to Jinia, he is supposed to be dead. The next morning, Kayoung goes hiking and is interrupted by who she thinks is Jung-hun's father, as they've both come to her shop together. But she is shocked when the man suddenly asks how many wishes she has left. She refuses to tell him, and the man angrily pushes him off the cliff. On her way down, she begins to remember people she loves, and she finds herself thinking of Iblis. As she waits to hit the ground, Iblis quickly comes to her rescue by catching her. Immediately, he asks her angrily why she didn't wish to be saved, and she tells him that she does not want to forget about him because she would do after the 3rd wish, and his expression softens, after which he hugs her deeply. Iblis returns to the cliff and takes out the man who pushed Kayoung in rage. Unknown to him, Jung-hoon and one of his guards watch him from afar and confirm his existence. As they discuss how to take over him, Soohyun furiously approaches them, blocks Jung-hoon's guard from reaching him, and slaps the spirit inside of Jung-hoon out to confront it for making a crazy decision. Apparently, Khalid's spirit has taken hostage in Jung-hoon's body since Jung-hoon is immortal, so he is the one controlling Jung-hoon now. Soohyun tells the spirit that he needs Kaiyong's last wish to be righteous because that is the only way he will be able to slit Iblis's throat. He warns the spirit to stop its activity because if things go his way and Iblis ends up dying, the lamp the spirit is hellbent on getting will be useless. Meanwhile, Iblis visits the spirit realm to meet with Zahara, one of his other brothers, who is in charge of nurturing people's life in his garden, for explanation on the Shadi's situation, and after catching up with Zahara, he finds out Shadi has a son with a human named Khalid, but because of the two spirits in him, he is always weak, and as a concerned father, he decided to swap his soul with that of Hunbish after realizing that he is immortal, and he was able to achieve it with the help of Zahara. This later backfired for Zahara, because all the flowers in his garden had withered away, and for some strange reason, only Hunbish's own remains. Meanwhile, Sungyeon visits Panjiam, where she is volunteering for a food bank, and after getting her to a separate room, he introduces himself to her and informs her that she will die soon, leaving her extremely shocked. Kaiyong, on the other hand, who is still recovering from almost falling off a cliff, visits the bank. The bankers apologize for the issue regarding her bank account, and they let her know that the issue has been resolved, while Bogyong stares at her in rage, but a petty Kaiyong just asks for all her money in cash. She returns to her workshop in the evening, and Jung-hun visits her in the company of his guards to introduce themselves. He requests for her to pause on her wish to him, claiming he wants to put an end to his immortality, but she sees through him and slices his face with her screwdriver to confirm if he is truly immortal. As his guards try to fight her, Sade transforms into a jaguar to scare them off, just as Chang-sik arrives because he heard noises, causing Jung-hun and his guards to retreat. Iblis returns to Kaiyong's shop the next morning to tell her about what he found out. He informs her that the college she found in her memory is the current Jung-hun, who has now made it his life mission to torment them. And just in time, Poopy and his bodyguard enter for his next wish, and Poopy wishes to be transformed back into a dog because he has found his owner. Apparently, Poopy is sick, and he wants to be able to say goodbye to his owner before he takes his last breath. Surprised by his decision, Iblis grants him his wish. A few days later, Kaiyong visits Iblis' apartment for a talk, and she tells him that the walls and floors in his room have writings on them. Surprised that he can't see them, she brings out her marker from her bag and begins to trace out the writing for him to see. They soon find out that they might have a hidden past together because the writings relate to them. So they summon Soohyun, Iram, and Sade for help, but they all refuse, convincing them further that they might be hiding something. Shortly after, Sangtae summons Iblis, and he goes to meet him. He finds out that he wants to return to travel to the past again, but this time around, he wants to perfect his mistake concerning the missing girl that Kaiyong told him about, so Iblis grants it. Unknown to Sangtae, Iblis and Kaiyong already came up with a plan to stop him, so when the missing girl approaches Sangtae and Sangtae tries to take her out in the past, Kaiyong arrives and hits him with a rod. She continues to beat the hell out of him till the cops arrive to take Sangtae away, and Iblis paints a vivid picture of what went down to them. And as Iblis returns to the present that night, he promises Kaiyong that he will make sure he finds their hidden memory and shares a passionate kiss with her. In another part of the village, Youngin tells Dajin that a genie helped him find the corpse that boosted his channel. Dajin refuses to believe at first, but seeing Youngin's seriousness, they decide to come up with their next two wishes. After thinking for a while, Dajin suggests they cure her father's cancer, but Young Hyun refuses because he feels like it will be a waste, and this hurts Dajin deeply. The next morning, Pangwam sends a text message to her friends to lie that she is extending her stay in order to prevent them from suspecting anything. Soon after, Kaiyong interrupts her to ask what is for breakfast, and she tells her to invite Iblis for breakfast. As they eat, Panjiam encourages Iblis to get to know Kaiyong more because she wants someone to be there for Kaiyong when she eventually dies. But oblivious Kaiyong just fights with him for stealing his food, and as they run around the room, Panjiam is satisfied that they have a chemistry going on between them. A few days later, Pangwam takes Kaiyong out for her idea of fun because she wants them to spend more time together before her passing, and after escaping from Pangwam, Kaiyong visits a calm Minji, who has already clocked that the young Panjiam is Kaiyong's grandma, at her clinic for catching up. She then asks Minji for a favor because she is going on a journey with Iblis to find their hidden memory. So throughout the following day, Minji walks around the village, pretending to be on the phone with Panjiam in order to deceive the villagers that she is still on vacation. In the meantime, Daejin, who is still angry with Younghyun about the wishes, changes the password of his streaming account and deletes the channel from the web as payback for hurting her. Soon after, he runs in to complain that he cannot access his channel, and she confesses that it was her handiwork, leaving him frustrated. She also lets him know that she is the only one who can restore the account, so he had better bring the genie to her. As a means of revenge, he goes to the bar where he made his first wish and wishes that she forgets everything relating to the wishes. As this is going on, Hyun-grae, one of the grannies who was part of the people who saw when Minji was making her fake call, decides to call Panjiam herself on her way home, only to find out it isn't reachable. She soon begins to suspect the stranger, and later that night, she sneaks into Kyung's house. She goes to their fridge to taste the food, and she confirms it is Panjiam's cooking, so when young Panjiam enters the house, she immediately confronts her for using a potion to become younger. To confirm her suspicion, she sees a mole on her shoulder, similar to the old Panjiam's, so she runs out of the house to alert the villagers, while young Panjiam runs after her to calm her down. As Hyun-grae runs out, Jung-hun's men, who have been watching Kyung's house for a while, see their interaction from afar and immediately report the issue to Jung-hun. This is how Jung-hun finds out that Kyung used one of her wishes on her grandma, but he does not want the story to leak just yet, so he sends one of his guards to finish Hyun-grae off. Centuries ago, Iblis continued to wait for the punishment young Kyung made as her last wish until one day, he ran into her selling dates on the streets and immediately recognized her as the young girl. Unfortunately, Kyung does not remember him and goes on about her day. This seems to piss Iblis off, and he makes her trip, causing her dates to scatter on the floor in the process. She picks them up and confronts him, but Iblis just steals gold off a passerby and gives it to her as payment. For the days that follow, Iblis continues to disturb Kyung, and he soon finds out that she loves to return to her homeland, so he promises to take her. He also finds out that she once died and mysteriously returned to life. One day, Iblis finds her talking to Khalid as he weaves his mat, and Khalid begs him to make him strong after seeing that he is a genie, offering him one of his mats as payment, but Iblis refuses, and this makes him very sad and angry. Iblis continues his friendship with Kyung and takes her to his lamp. She tells him stories about her homeland while Iblis watches her in amusement, and anytime she smiles, he feels his heart pounding for her. On the day they plan to begin their journey to her homeland, he suddenly glows, signifying that someone has found his lamp, so he promises to return soon and goes to grant the person's wishes. He then meets with Mutalib, the person who summoned him, and his first wish is to be the richest person on earth. He grants his wish, but Mutalib still feels people look down on him. So, for his second wish, he requests that the people who look down on him be eliminated, and even though Iblis feels bad about the wish, he grants it since he has no choice. A few days later, Mutalib runs into Kyung in the streets and asks her out, but she refuses. This makes him mad, so he summons Iblis later in the evening for his final wish. Mutalib wishes for the complete submission of Kyung, and, unknown to Iblis, he grants the wish. However, Iblis soon regrets it when he sees Kyung suddenly appear, and he finds out that she is the lady Mutalib was referring to. With rage, he tries to stop Mutalib's men from taking Kyung. Suddenly, Khalid, who is now living in Hunbush's immortal body, stops him with the magical thread as revenge for not helping him before. As this is going on, Mutalib sees that he cannot have Kyung to himself, so he eliminates her himself. Iblis sees this and immediately cries out. Kyung falls into Iblis's hand, and he mourns her. In a quest to save her life, he begs tearfully for anybody to pick up his lamp and wish to save Kyung, as he promises to fulfill their remaining 2 wishes. But the person who eventually picks up the lamp only wished for more gold, and that is how Kyung ended up dying, but before she takes her last breath, her hand touches the thread on his leg and it disappears. Iblis cries out as he watches the people pack the gold. He then uses his rage to execute Mutalib before leaving the town for good. Centuries later, Honghae turns Panjiam's house upside down as the villagers try to stop her, but she refuses and runs into the street, only for one of Jung-hun's men to run her over with his car, leaving the villagers shocked. While the villagers mourn Honghae, Iblis, who has now returned from his memory trip, apologizes to Kyung for causing her pain, but she tells him to put the past in the past and focus on the present. Young-hyun, on the other hand, also finds that his wish has made Dojin forget their streaming channel password, and seeing his wife sad immediately makes him regret his action. Moments after, Iblis and Kyung return home, and on hearing what happened, they take Minji and Panjiam to the lamp for safety and put Sade in charge of protecting them. Afterwards, Kaiyong visits Bogyong at her home with cash to exchange for her last wish, and even though Bogyong refuses at first because of the rift between them, she later accepts. She returns to meet Iblis, and she also confirms that Yongyan used his last wish for a good cause, as he wishes for Dajin's father's recovery. Soon after, he excuses himself to go for their next plan of action, which is to take out Jung-hun, but she stops him and hugs him deeply because she is unsure of what will happen. And Iblis cries into her shoulders. The next morning, Iblis goes to Jung-hun's hideout only to be held captive. He then sees Jung-hun take Shadi's life in his face, and he promises to take Jung-hun out with his hands. Jung-gun, on the other hand, ignores his threat and goes to meet Kaiyong, where he has her tied up and asks for the lamp. However, Kaiyong wishes to disappear, and she does, leaving him frustrated, while she appears where Iblis is being held captive, and proceeds to release him so that he can go and battle with Soo-hyun since her wishes worked in Soo-hyun's favor. As this is going on, Jung-hun and his guards begin to look for her in the compound, and to make matters worse, Irem, who already stole Iblis's lamp on Soo-hyun's order, approaches them and hands it over to Jung-hun. Just as Sade exits the lamp to see what is going on and finds out that Irem has sold them out. He then transforms into a jaguar to fight off the guards to get the lamp back. While the fight is going on, Jung-hun releases Minji and Panjiam from the lamp, and Sade immediately jumps on him. Panjiam sees the whole thing playing out, and she figures her time on Earth is almost up, so she tells a confused Minji to tell Kaiyong that she loves her. Simultaneously, Jung-hun hurts Sade with the thread in his hand, and as Minji runs to Sade's side, one of Jung-hun's guards proceeds to shoot her. Panjiam sees this and immediately runs to take the shot instead, shocking Minji. And as Jung-hun moves closer to Panjiam, she grabs the thread in his hand and swallows it immediately, leaving Jung-hun furious, so he orders that Panjiam be sliced open immediately. One of his guards moves closer to do it, but Sade stands up to stop him, and after he is done dealing with the guard, he dies from exhaustion. Iblis, on the other hand, is also fighting an intense battle with Soo-hyun in the spirit realm, and he slices one of his wings in the process, causing Soo-hyun to fall. Afterwards, he destroys the last flower representing Hunwish's life in Zahara's garden, which instantly ends Jung-hun's existence. Iblis then returns to Kaiyong's side in the physical realm, but she leaves his side to go check on her grandma. Unfortunately, she is too late as Minji is already tearfully taking her to the mortuary. And when they hold Panjiam's burial the next day, Kaiyong does not shed a single tear because she does not know how to feel emotions. A few days after the burial, Kaiyong rubs her lamp to summon Iblis, but he does not appear, so she takes matters into her hands and goes to the desert to find him herself. On getting there, she begins to scream his name as she continues to wander in the desert for days until one day, he finally responds. She confronts him for not answering. But Iblis just stares at her with bloodshot eyes. He pleads with her not to make her final wish, but she refuses and wishes to feel emotions for a day. With tears in his eyes, he bows down to her because he finds her pure and grants her wish. After he disappears, different memories flood her, and she cries deeply as she remembers Panjiam, and as this is going on, Iblis returns to the spirit world for Soo-hyun to slice his throat. While Kaiyong continues to cry till she dies from exhaustion in the desert. A year later, Minji visits Kaiyong's burial site to celebrate her remembrance, and she is shocked to see Kaiyong appear before her. She soon finds out that Kaiyong is now a genie. Kaiyong asks her to make 3 wishes, and she instantly wishes for 2 things on the spot. She wishes to spend more time with Kaiyong, and they do that. So when they return to her burial site a few days later, she wishes for Kaiyong to have a happy life, which means memories of her and Kaiyong will no longer exist. So, Kaiyong continues her new work as a genie, and one day, Iblis suddenly appears beside her and kisses her passionately, catching her completely by surprise. She soon finds out that Panguim disturbed Soo-hyun in the spirit realm to bring Iblis back to life, and they continue their relationship while Minji visits the desert every year because she feels drawn to the place. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed till now, comment down below 3 wishes. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more recaps like this one. See you in the next one.